guys, it's Rhea again. So, in my last video, I read the first part of chapter 3, which is the part that gets not safe for work. So again, this part gets really in depth, and I will be in character, so I'm not going to leave anything out. So, if you're not comfortable with that, or if you're in a public space and you're not comfortable with listening to that in public, I understand. You might want to save this video for another time or skip it entirely. So, just a warning, but I'll be beginning now. If you really don't want to, David, I understand, and I'll leave you be. But this is going to be our only chance, so I'd like you to really think about it. He palmed David's groin and his grin widened. You're already getting hard. I promise I could satisfy you. No one has to know. No one has to get in trouble. Our secret. Just let me fuck you, please. David cringed slightly at the curse word, but Daniel was rubbing him gently, and it was so hard to say no to someone like Daniel. Someone David really did want to sleep with. His hand seemed to move of its own accord. He grabbed Daniel's shirt and pulled him down. The kiss was rough and messy. Daniel's hand tangled in David's hair and pulled him closer, deepening the kiss. His other hand rubbed harder, making David groan into it. They parted, breathing heavy. Have you ever been with anyone before? Daniel asked. My girlfriend in high school, David replied softly. His hand rubbed at Daniel's chest through his shirt. Oh, bisexual then? No, I didn't want to disappoint my father. Daniel chuckled softly. Poor thing. Ever been with a man before? No. Well, Daniel leaned in and brushed their lips together. I'm about to make tonight the best night of your life. David shivered. The second kiss was rougher than the first, and it was brief, too. Daniel broke it and grabbed David's waist. David was yanked to his feet. It seemed Daniel was much stronger than he looked. David made a mental note of that, just in case. Their lips met again. Daniel put them flush against each other. David could feel Daniel's erection pressing against his hip. It felt thick, heavy, solid. David bucked his hips against it, and Daniel moaned. David broke the kiss this time. The bed was barely 5 feet away. David stumbled slightly as he pulled Daniel over. When his legs brushed it, stopping them, he was shoved. With a grunt, he hit the bed and looked up at Daniel. The blonde had a wicked grin on his face and a large tent in his pants. He moved his shirt over his head and threw it aside, and David quickly did the same, tossing his shirt on the other side of the bed. Daniel's lips were on David's collarbone a second later, and his hands roamed his torso. Teeth and lips and tongue left trails across David's neck and chest, leaving his upper body flushed and breathless. Fingers slipped under his waistband. It slid down his hips and was soon gone, his pants finding their place on the floor. Things only spiraled from there. Fingers caressed him in places he'd never really touched, making his legs tremble. Latex rolled over thick flesh. Lubricant was cold against his entrance. A sharp gasp. The feeling that was Daniel sinking into him was overwhelming and aching and so good in a way that David didn't have words to describe. It was so big, and there was pain, but the pleasure overrode it. Daniel's hips pressed against David's ass and his back arched. He was overcome by an amazing tingling sensation that seemed to be centered in his head but traveled throughout his body. Without much thought, he grabbed Daniel's knees, hooking his fingers beneath them, and pulled closer against Daniel, taking him deeper, and the tingling increased. Oh, yes, he gasped with shaking breath. He was vaguely aware that he was grinding his hips against Daniel. Above him, Daniel let out a purr of a chuckle. You like it deep, do you? Uh-huh, David whimpered. Another chuckle. That gives me an idea for next time. Next time? David asked, breathless. Of course, we only get one night. I brought 3 condoms. Oh, gosh! A slight surprise, but far from negative. Daniel got a better grip on David's legs and spread them a little wider. Remember, relax. David figured he was more relaxed and at ease and blissful in that moment than he had been in some years. He didn't get a chance to try and form words, however. Another sharp gasp was forced from him when Daniel began thrusting, hard and fast and deep. Loud noises fell out of David's throat before he could stop them, and he had to grit his teeth together to try and control them. He really didn't want anyone hearing them. But with how loudly their skins slapped together with each plunging thrust, maybe it was too late to worry about that. "Oh, God!" David managed in a languid moan. "Call me Daniel," the blonde panted. "Daniel!" He was breathless. His hand gripped the sheets like a vice, and his head ended up hanging partly off the side of the bed. His noises dissolved into whimpers and groans. David pushed his legs closer and drove harder, making his back arch. "Oh, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please." Daniel chuckled. "I thought you might be a cock slut." "Language!" David moaned without realizing it. A laugh. Daniel leaned in and pressed their lips together. His thrust lost some speed, hitting hard and deep instead. The kiss prevented David from crying out, causing him to moan into it instead. His hand flew to Daniel's back, where they began making red trails of desperation in the pale flesh. It was Daniel's turn to moan. He broke the kiss, panting, "Fuck, David!" Hearing his name spoken like that sent a thrill through David. "God, Daniel! Oh, shit!" Daniel gasped. His hand slipped between them and wrapped around David's aching cock. He stroked it quickly, paying special attention to the head, squeezing it a bit harder than the shaft. David moaned and writhed. "Daniel! Come for me, please." Daniel panted in David's ear, his hot breath brushing heated flesh. "I'm so fucking close, but you have to come first." His tone was desperate. David really didn't need any encouraging. Between the thrusting and stroking and moaning, it was just too much. He came with a loud guttural moan. His whole body tensed and quivered with it. His nails bit deeply into Daniel's back. Daniel finished seconds later. "Shit, David!" His body tensed as well. David could feel the muscles under his fingertips, and his thrusts lost their rhythmic pace. He hit hard and deep a few more times, groaning and trembling. Finally, he thrust deep and relaxed. He rested with his head buried in David's neck. They were breathless and sweaty, but neither really cared. Total bliss. David's hands had flopped uselessly to his sides, but he'd summoned strength to lift one. He tangled his fingers in the hair back of Daniel's head, stroking gently. Daniel groaned softly and placed slow kisses on David's neck. Eventually, he grunted and pushed himself up. Their eyes met. Both were a mess, their hair a sweaty mess. Daniel's gaze was predatory. Rather than being frightened by it, David suddenly found himself feeling incredibly attracted. Was this what a crush felt like? Uh-oh. Daniel smirked at him and the new feeling increased. "Shit. How was your first real time, Davy?" Davy. He must have heard Jasper call him that before. David kind of liked how Daniel said it. "Amazing," he breathed. "Is it always like that, or are you just that good?" Daniel chuckled. "I like to think I'm just that good." He gently pulled out and let David's legs finally come to rest on the bed. They felt numb and achy at the same time. Daniel climbed off the bed and pulled the condom off. He stepped over the trash bin that was sitting by the desk, tossing the used rubber in. There were long red scratches on his back, bright against his pale skin. "You're bleeding," David stated. Daniel turned, and another smirk graced his lips. "Good, means I did a good job." David took a deep breath and pushed himself up. A hiss. Everything below the waist hurt, but not to an intolerable degree. He shifted, and a few moments later the two were laying down, side by side, vertical, their heads on the pillows. "Are we really gonna do it twice more?" David asked softly. Daniel let out a soft chuckle. "We don't have to. Only if you're up for it." He rolled over and pressed a kiss to David's cheek. The redhead glanced at a wooden clock on the wall. They'd been at it for over 20 minutes. Somehow, it hadn't felt that long. He lightly bit his lip, thinking, it wouldn't hurt to go another round, right? It was still early. David had stayed up far late than this, just reading. "I'd like to go again," he said shyly. He could feel David's grin against his cheek. And I'm going to stop there to keep this short, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry you had to hear that because, like I said, I'm not holding back. But love you guys, thank you for listening, and have a good day.